Hey guys, welcome to episode number 3 of the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm going to dub this one, I think, the noisy episode, because there's 2 separate interviews on this episode and they're both in noisy environments. I don't know why I chose to do this, but you know what, it's great because it adds a bit of realism to the audio. I'm a lover of people, and the noises of represent where you are, really. So when I've interviewed Mike at Stop.cafe in the museum in town, situated in the museum in town, I really wanted all those cafe sounds in the background. I really wanted to let you guys kind of feel where I am, so I really like that. So that's where I do. Mike Dalton, who is the co-owner of Stop Cafes, situated all through Shrewsbury. There's one just outside the quarry, there's one outside the university, and of course there's one right in the middle of town in the museum. So then the second half of this episode is going to be me speaking to a guy called Aleks Vladimirov, who works for Shrewsbury Bid. Now, Shrewsbury Bid have been great for our show. They do great things for town. They've just been voted in for a second term to do what they do. And what they do is find parts of Shrewsbury where they can improve things, and they keep things looking fresh and great, you know. And they've got these great ideas, and I wanted to sit down and speak to him, congratulate him as well. And they've given us a great opportunity. We're going to be covering the Darwin Festival throughout February, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have had that great opportunity. So I wanted to meet up with him and have a quick chat. But we did that in the bird's nest in the Market Hall. I've got to tell you, the Market Hall was absolutely amazing. I went there straight after the light switch, and it was literally wall to wall with people. There was people at the other end playing ukuleles and singing, so there was music, people, these amazing smells of food. It was great. So it was super noisy, and yes, you may have to strain your ears a bit to listen to the conversation, but it's definitely worth it. But that interview I did after what was an absolute nightmare of a session of recording in Shrewsbury at the light switch. You may have seen on my Facebook. I'm an idiot, right? So I finally pluck up the courage to yet again go in and try and get interviews with people about Christmas. And it's going really well. I'm getting like 3 interviews. I'm speaking to people. They're telling me about what they got planned for Christmas. And it's quite a nice little, you know, a bashful kind of pleasant kind of conversations and stuff. I even bumped into my friend Stacey, who I work with at the prison. She gave a great interview. But none of your interviews were recorded because I forgot to press the record button twice instead of once. So I felt like a bit of an idiot. In fact, the only interview I've got on my Tascam is the one I did with my 3-year-old boy, which there you go, there's my phone going off as normal. So yeah, the only interview I got was for my 3-year-old. I don't know whether to put that on the episode or not. I'll have to ask my wife for permission for that. But yeah, a great episode, guys. 2 different interviews, but similar kind of styles. It's a different sound to what you're going to hear on the podcast, and that's what I want to aim for. I want something different every time, and you can't be any more different than to be recording in a cafe or, you know, a busy market hall. So I hope you enjoy it. Make sure you give me some feedback, whether you liked it or not, whether you like those sounds of you know, those kind of hustle and bustle sounds in the background. I really like them. But anyway, hope you enjoy the episode. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you at the end of this podcast. Hey, have you ever wondered what makes Shrewsbury such a great town? I think about it all the time. That's why I decided to create the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. A place where we can sit and talk to people from all walks of life, listen to stories about what makes this town such a great place to live. We are going to be talking to authors and historians, artists and musicians, entrepreneurs, and people that have got great stories to tell about this town. Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit. We're going to be interviewing Mike, who's he's the owner, co-owner?
Co-owner with my wife.
Co-owner with your wife. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Of Stop Cafe. Stop Cafe.
This one's called Stop Cafe Bar. They've all got slightly different names, but they're all called Stop.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And like I've explained on the previous show, the aim of this show is to capture the essence of what makes Shrewsbury such a great town. I am not from Shrewsbury, I've explained that, and when I did move to Shrewsbury last August, I fell hard in love with the place. I really loved it, and I don't think I could vision myself living anywhere. So I wanted to interview people from all walks of life to explain to me what it is that's drawing me and everyone else here. I mean, I was just walking through town with all my gear, and I had some students, what sounds like, behind me, and all they were talking about is how great it looked. Genuinely, like, that's not me just trying to put this into the show. I was shocked, and then I walked through town, and there's just tourists everywhere looking at things and amazed by the place. And this coffee shop is situated right in one of the most central tourist spots.
Yeah, we're very lucky. We're here in the museum and art gallery, and then you've got the tourist information office, obviously, at the front of the building. So yeah, we are. And I think the market square is very much the the beating heart of Shrewsbury. So much going on, and particularly in summer's days, when the market's full, the market square is full.
Yeah. And whenever you come to a place like Shrewsbury, you're always like, I wonder if they got a good museum here. And they kind of make your way to the museum. So this is a great place to be. So let's start off with, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself?
Sure.
Introduce yourself and what you do.
So my name's Mike Dalton. I'm pretty much lived in Shrewsbury all my life.
Yeah.
I think the only time I haven't lived in Shrewsbury was when I was at university. I married my wife Nicola. She's the co-owner of the coffee shops, I should say, that we've got in Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
I grew up in Sundorn, where my parents still live. My elderly parents are both still over in Sundorn. So, yeah, I'm pretty much a Shropshire lad. Always have been and probably always will be.
And you love living here. You couldn't vision yourself living anywhere else?
No, it's funny. Probably like many people, when I was younger, I desperately wanted to leave the town and had all these various ideas of moving away and striking out and whatever. And then the older I got, and certainly after having children, you kind of reach that conclusion. Well, no, this is a pretty good place to live, but also, very importantly, a good place to bring up children.
Yes, and that's one of the main things that drew me here. I've got a 3-year-old, and I was like, schools are great in Shrewsbury. There's nothing to say anything bad about Telford, where I was living before, but whenever I'd seen the schools, they always looked so much nicer. The kids around here seem so much nicer, and that was one of the main drawing points for me here. And then when you get here, it's just so beautiful. You don't want to go anywhere.
I mean, it's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not a utopia, but I think it is. It's how could you put it? It's a safe place to grow up in. I mean, I grew up here, and it felt safe. It's big enough to be exciting, but small enough to be safe.
Yeah, and the community here is just it's spellbinding. I mean, I live in Bellevue, and everyone you speak to is just so polite and so helpful, and that's always really, really good. So you own, you and your wife own these coffee shops. How did all this begin?
Yeah, it's a bit of a bizarre one, because as of sort of 6 years ago, I had a completely different career. I worked in corporate PR. I worked for the bulk of my corporate life. I worked for Royal Mail or Royal Mail Group, which meant travelling over to Birmingham and also London for the latter part of my career. My wife is a teacher by profession, and about 6 odd years ago, in fact, we can always recount this story because I can still remember it vividly. It was a New Year's Day, and we were walking through town, probably trying to shake off a hangover, and we were looking for somewhere to go for a coffee, and we ended up in a local hotel. I won't say the name, but they served us the coffee, and we started chatting about how poor the coffee was and how poor the service was, and sort of saying it can't be that difficult surely, and we went on, and then fast forward, I think probably about 10 months from that day, we opened the St Julian's Stop down in Coleman.
Oh, right, that's where I frequent quite a bit, And yeah, I mean, you did this justice for coffee. Let's do coffee justice, because I feel you. I mean,
I think we, in all honesty, we were probably a bit naive, and we had a view of a coffee shop, which I think a lot of people may have, that it's all very sedate and friendly, and it's easy to do as a business owner, and it's a very relaxing sort of atmosphere, relaxing way to earn money. Yeah. It isn't.
I can imagine, especially when Shrewsbury's got such a great cafe culture.
Yeah.
There are so many amazing. I mean, I'm not just going to interview you guys. I'm going to be speaking to all kinds of people that own coffee shops as well. And there's no competition really, is there? Because there are so many great coffee shops. You can just choose.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I think, if you like coffee and you live in or near Shrewsbury, or you're a visitor, you're blessed, because there's some outstanding coffee shops in this town. I mean, 6 years ago there was less. So when we opened, there weren't that many direct competitors, but now there are. I always, see people as competitors, but if they're independents, they're kind of competitors, but they're not. We're all in it together.
Yeah.
The people I've got to beef with are the chains, and I really would rather, if you want to come to us to get your coffee fix, fine. Don't go to a chain. Go to another independent.
Yeah, and that's what I tend to do. In fact, I went for a meeting. It was about the show and about what we're going to be doing with the Darwin Festival in February. And I walked in with a Costa coffee, but that was just because it was just there. Like I just walked up the cop. I was kind of dying, trying not to die. And
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'm on a motorway on a long journey and we pull into a service station, I need a fix, so it'll have to be Costa or Starbucks. But if ever I get the choice, it'd be independent.
Did the rise in all of these there's a Starbucks and Costa everywhere? Did that kind of inspire you?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, in a sort of, in a financial sense. I mean, we did a bit of research into the coffee industry, or the growth of coffee shops, and it's fair to say that 6 odd years ago, and even now, I think there's still growth in the market.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably at this point I would argue that Shrewsbury is very near to saturation. Not just in terms of coffee shops and cafes, but I think in the hospitality sector generally.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, heck of a lot. And the pie's only, to use a pun, the pie's only so big. There's only so much of it to go around.
Yeah. Whereas I think with coffee places, it's strange how we work as consumers, because, like I said, I grabbed the coffee, Costa coffee, because it's just near to me, Whereas with you guys, you've got a number of chains now. You've got one sort of in Colham, just at the end of the quarry, and you've got one in town. Where did you say you've got another one as well?
The university over at the Guildhall in Frankwell. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you've got strategically placed.
Yeah, I'd like to say it happened strategically, but no, it was pretty much sort of by accident, the way that that we've grown. But yeah, 3 of them, and I suppose the good thing for us and what keeps us on our toes is they're all very different.
Yeah.
So the kind of people who come into the St Julian's place are different from the kind of people who come in here to the museum. Very different, obviously, from the students who go into the university coffee shop.
The one in Colham I really like, because I take my little boy to the park, and I tend to walk, and then by the time we get back, we're both kind of knackered and tired. And excuse me, sorry, that's like coffee. And I like to just sit on that couch in the corner. And I think about 3 weeks ago is actually when I first started asking about the podcast. I'm a little boy with me, and we just sat and did a Where's Wally whilst I drank coffee, and he had a milkshake. It was really, really nice. It's like a really nice homely feeling.
I think that's what we try to sort of engineer. The look of the place, the feel of the place, hopefully the friendliness of the staff means that people feel chilled when they come in. So you don't feel rushed. You don't feel as if you got to you don't feel hurried to finish your coffee. You can spend a little bit of time there. I mean, the only time it does get very rushed and hurried is we have a couple of running groups on a Saturday and Sunday morning,
okay.
Park run and junior park run. So the place is absolutely rammed.
Espresso, go!
Or cake to recover from their running.
I can imagine that. I mean, I'm a tubby guy myself. I can imagine, I've just done all this running, now I need cake.
Exactly, the reward at the end of it. Yeah, that's right.
That's great. And it's so diverse in Shrewsbury. It's such an amazing place where you can sit. I mean, we're sat in a coffee shop now in the museum, and I'm looking around, and there's young people, and there's old people, there's children, and it's a place where you could quite easily sit with your child, like I did in Colham, or you can whip open your laptop, do some work.
It's funny because I mean that's actually another aspect of what we've tried to do from the get-go. We kind of had naivety on our part. We had this idea when we originally opened that we were going to be this, ultra hip, trendy, artisan style coffee shop. And don't get me wrong, that there's a place for those kind of outlets, and all good luck to them. But why would you want to only have one type of customer?
Exactly.
You've got to be the kind of place that can attract, that everybody feels comfortable in. As you said, whether they're young, whether they're old, whatever experience they want from the coffee shop, you want to make them feel comfortable.
And this place has got to seem universal universal in the fact that you're getting a lot of tourists. In this specific one, really, because you go to one coffee, you've been to them all. So, but that's very generic. But at the same time, you want to go to what you're used to. You don't want to walk into somewhere where it is too hip and young looking. But at the same time,
that's right. So you have got to be quite sort of careful. You don't, and I always think. The way that people dress, I always used to say to my well, they're not teenagers anymore, but my two sons, never be too trendy.
Yeah.
Be fashionable, but not too fashionable.
Just do you. Yeah,
that's right.
And also, the most important thing is the coffee. The coffee.
Yeah.
The coffee here is amazing. I love it.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I think your staff here have seen me here at least 3 or 4 times this week. Sat here, I've been speaking to. I went to I had a meeting with the guy from the museum actually, who's going to be very, very, very helpful to us. Likes what we're doing. Well, I had to bring my 3-year-old along, and. It was so embarrassing. It went well, but he was like, as 3-year-olds do, he's pottering around, he's got a banana, he's mushed it everywhere. I'm like, oh, don't do that. I had a surgical mask in my bag because I work at the prison as a scare actor.
Right.
So for my character, I thought it might be creepy to have a surgical mask. So he pulls it out of my bag. This guy at the museum's going, what am I doing here? And then he turns to me and he goes, I need a poo. And I was like, oh my God, never bringing him again. He's a good luck charm.
Never work with children or animals.
But this guy's super relaxed and he understood. So
we do invest a lot of time and energy in the coffee, and we're lucky that our supplier, the lady who does our blend and our roasting, Danielle Hadley, she's based over in she just moved actually. She's in Ludlow now, so she's very much local. Obviously the beans that go into the coffee aren't local. So all of our baristas, all the people who work here, they're all trained by her.
Oh wow!
Because she's very, very diligent about well, it's my coffee, it's her coffee, so she wants it prepared and presented in the right way.
So she gets the beans from, say, Colombia or wherever it comes from, and she roasts it herself.
That's right, and she chooses the blend. So this is testing me now. Honduras, Sumatra, and somewhere else. That's awful. That's awful. I don't know my own blend.
No, that's really cool though, because I guess a lot of people just buy it from a Booker's or something.
Yeah, I mean certainly. Going back to what we were saying about the quality of coffee shops in Shrewsbury, I mean, most of the good ones absolutely will have their own blend, and they'll, a lot of them will change the blends, and they'll have guest blends and single origins, etc. But all of them will take a pride in what they do, because it's it's what they do. If you put the name coffee shop above your window, you better be prepared to make a good coffee.
Do you ever get proper coffee critics in here that'll be like, tasting it and be like, there's a blend of this. Do you ever get that? Is that a thing?
Well, we do. And I mean, funny enough, we've got a session tomorrow. Danielle's going to come in. She's going to set up for a few hours. And she's going to do one of the techniques she's going to go through with people is what they call cupping. And it's essentially, it's the coffee equivalent of wine tasting.
Oh, okay.
So you literally use a spoon, and you roll the coffee around on your palate, and you talk about the flavours and all that kind of. So I mean, that's proper hardcore.
I would love to come to one of them. That'd be so funny. So is this something I mean, I know you're saying you were doing PR. Could you ever imagined of doing this when you were younger? I mean, what were you like when you were younger?
I was what's that Australian term? A larrikin. I was a bit of I didn't do particularly well at school. I was a class clown. I was the guy telling the jokes, the guy not concentrating.
Jack the lad.
Something like that. Yeah. But so no, and genuinely, I didn't know what I was going to do as a career anyway. I mean, I fell into PR just completely by accident, as often I'm sure most people do with their careers. Yeah. But it was, as a career, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I spent 20 years doing it, and I really enjoyed it. I worked for big organisations and tackled some big issues. But no, I mean, I'd like to think I was good at it. Whether I was good or not, I don't. It's for others to decide. But I enjoyed it. I really did.
Yeah. What was more demanding, the coffee business or the PR business?
Oh, the coffee business.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the coffee business. I mean, when I look back at my corporate life, I had it so easy. I mean, I always tell the story about when we first started the business. I couldn't, I'd made that jump from being corporate. So just a silly example, I'd never had to buy stationery. So, when you're running your own business, everything is down to you. I mean, I'd never bought a mobile phone because the business supplied it. I'd never bought a car because the business supplied it. Everything was laid on for me. And I went from that to, no, Mike, you have to do everything.
Yeah, get hands on.
The biggest one, which is a bit abstract, was decision making. because I'd always worked in big organisations. Decisions are made generally by a number of people. Until it gets to the chairman or chief exec, and then he or she will make it. But I was always part of a decision-making process.
It was a team
exactly.
Thing, yeah.
And I went from that to day one of, what are we going to do now? Oh, blimey, I've got to make a decision.
Mike, we don't have enough mugs. Mike, we've run out of coffee. Mike, the bulb's gone in here.
and I mean, that's a good point, actually, because you end up, I had this idea of me being this trendy barista just making coffee. No, I'm rocking toilets. I'm a woodworker. I've got a monkey wrench. I'm doing everything.
How well do you work with the museum? Is there like does it get awkward sometimes when they're like, well, we've got to close, got a feature now, but we've got to close?
No, they've been great. I mean, we've been here now for 5 years, and they've been absolutely fantastic. We do a lot here over and above the cafe, so we do evening events, we do gigs, a lot of music gigs.
Yeah, I see this. Yeah,
a lot of private parties. We use the courtyard a heck of a lot in the summer. And they've been great about that. I mean, I think, or I'd like to think, that like us, they see this whole complex as something more than just a museum or more than just a coffee shop.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful building.
It's a meeting place, that's what it is. It attracts people, and I suppose you could easily run here like an author reading or a poetry slam or something.
Well, we've got a poetry brunch coming up, actually, as part of the Literature Festival in November. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's already, but I think even more so, it could become an absolute culture hub for the whole of the town.
Yeah,
really should.
So it's going really well. I was going to say, my next question was, how is it going now? I mean, like you're saying, it's going really well. I mean,
I'll be honest. It's tough. It's not all plain sailing. I mean, we do enjoy it, and we're thankful for the custom we get. But I think anybody who works in hospitality in Shrewsbury will tell you that it's a tough market to be in. Margins aren't fantastic. The costs that we face. Certainly over the 6 years we've been doing it, have just risen and risen and risen. And of course, what you can't do is you can't pass all of those costs on to your customers. You can to a certain degree, but you can't. You can't suddenly decide you're going to charge £1 extra for every cup of coffee.
It was a huge shock the first time I ever went in to say a Costa or Starbucks, and I was like, "I'll have a coffee, please," and they were like, "That's £3.50," and I was like, "Okay." And whereas, like, I'm looking at your board now, and the prices are really good. They're not extortionate.
We can't. I mean, we couldn't afford to put them up to that level, even if we'd want to. But I think that the difficulty is that people who come into a coffee. I mean, it's the same as if you went into a bar and have a pint of beer, and say get charged £3.50 for a pint of ale, and you'll think to yourself, well, I could buy that in a bottle from Sainsbury's for say £1.55. But you're not paying just for the ale. You're paying for, right, let's go through it, our lighting, our utilities, our staff costs, our staff pension, our staff national insurance, the corporate tax, the business rates, the business improvement district levy,
and also you're situated in a place where you can meet your friends. You're right in the hub, right in the centre of the town, where you can go and do your shopping, or whether you're sightseeing.
You're paying for an experience, I suppose. Yeah, that's right.
And I get that. I mean, if you're going to sit in a generic Costa or something, you kind of grumble at the prices there. But here, I'd happily pay a bit more. I mean, I've had some really successful meetings in this big actual building, so I got I'm all over the place.
I think it is that thing about independence. I think we feel the costs far more than the chains. I mean, by definition, if it's a massive chain, they can sort of dilute their costs across all their sort of branches. But if you're an independent and you've only got 1, 2, or at most 3 places, everything that you're charged, you have to pay for. It's a tough trading. It really is.
And does it differ where the stores are? I mean, say Colum, the place in the museum, and here, do they differ?
They do a bit. I mean, it's almost like having sort of favourite children.
Yeah.
Sometimes 1 month trade might be particularly up in one of them, and that's your favourite. Yeah. And it's down in another one. You think, come on, pull your socks up.
And what about seasons? Does that affect things? So summer, winter? I mean, what happens?
Yeah, it does to an extent. I mean, the one in Colum, or St Julian's, I should say, is. I mean, that's probably very much weather dependent, because we've got the lovely outdoor area there, we've got the seating area. So, and you'll generally find if there's a lot of people in the quarry, they'll gravitate towards us. If it's a wet, rainy Wednesday
day,
afternoon in November, we might be very, very quiet down there.
Yeah, because it's a place where there isn't a lot built up around it, apart from Colum. It's kind of a bypassing place, isn't it?
It's a to and from. It's a thoroughfare.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, if the weather's atrocious, people just want to get where they're going.
Yeah.
They don't really want to loiter. Whereas here, I think we're a bit luckier because you've got the attraction of the museum on hand. And they've had some fantastic exhibitions here.
And students like coffee.
And students love coffee. I mean, we're lucky over at the university. Our guy Chris, who runs the cafe over there, all the students have fallen in love with him, and most of the lecturers too. So everyone goes in for they want their coffee fix, but they want to chat with Chris as well.
I'll have to pop in there, give him
give
him a card. Be like, hey, buddy. So what does the future hold for Stop? Are you growing? Are you going to expand? Are you saying you got a truck or a van?
Oh, a van, yes. Yeah.
You got a van. What's that about? What's going on?
Well, part of that is because the kitchen here in the museum, we bake all our own cakes.
Okay,
which
that's cool.
Which we with some justification, I'd say are the best in Shrewsbury. Richie, our baker, bakes everything here on site. So, of course, what that then means is that we've got to convey them around to the other two sites.
Okay.
We also do quite a lot of catering over at the university, because the university is, as well as being a university in its own right, holds a lot of meetings and seminars, conferences, that kind of thing.
So I need cakes. Oh, I know a guy that knows cakes.
So we got the van and logoed it up, and we got the racking in the back. So we drive around with cake. We drive up and down the Wild Cot with cake in the back.
If I see you driving around, I'd be like,
Cake, stop.
Cake and an espresso, please. So
it's funny. It's quite juvenile, but when we got the van, or when we got the logos put on the van, I was so excited. Arguably more excited than I was in opening any of the three places.
It's always nice seeing something you've created just there.
It's getting in a van and thinking, really, this.
It's a great thing. I mean, I suppose you're a creator as well. You may be a creator of businesses, but you've created this whole thing and your own brand as well. It's always really good.
Yeah, we're very proud of that, because the brand, the Stop logo and everything, is something that Nicola and I developed ourselves. I mean, we got some help with a local designer, but what we didn't do is we didn't pay a consultant to come up with it. It was absolutely our own idea.
Yeah.
In terms of the future, it's difficult because as I said earlier, Shrewsbury might be to the point of saturation with coffee shops. So I think if we are going to open, and we would like to open more, it might have to be, if not outside Shrewsbury, then maybe sort of located within another building or attraction.
Yeah.
Which was very much, that's absolutely what drew us here to the museum, because it's not just a coffee shop.
And that's the thing about Shropshire, is there are so many amazing places. You've got Ironbridge and Oswestry Street, and places in Telford as well. All these nice places that you could get away with that.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, and you have people that may visit from Shrewsbury like, oh, Stop, I know them. I might pop in there. There's great coffee, great cakes. So good luck with that. That sounds really. I mean, you've got to a point now, I suppose, where it's like it's working.
Yeah, Let's
keep it that way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it doesn't feel like a panic from day to day like it used to when we first started. We got to the point where we think we know what we're doing. Always learning, of course. Always things to learn. So now what it's about doing is improving. You've got the basic model set up. So what you try and do is you try and improve. You also keep an eye on the market, because there's always new things coming along. New types of coffee, new types of food. New ways in which you can get the punters through the door.
And there's been I suppose it's more, I think, because people talk about it more, but you get a lot more people talking about vegan food and special, whether you can't
the
drink
dietary
milk.
requirements. And that's something which in the 6 years we've been trading, we've noticed massively. So here on the menu we've got gluten-free alternatives, we've got vegan alternatives, we've got if you don't want milk, you can have oat milk, you can have soya milk. And it is, I think it is very much the growing trend. People want something different. And, sometimes it's for medical reasons. Sometimes it's just through choice.
Yeah. Let's be cool. I'm going to be vegan. So when you're not here, and you're not getting stressed by the business. What do you like to do to kind of wind down? What
To
do you do
unwind.
what's your thing? You know,
Right. I don't know. What did I say earlier? Heavy drinking and sleeping. Yeah, one followed by the other. I don't know. I suppose I watch a lot of sport. I've always been into sport.
oh yeah, what's your thing?
Well, rugby league is my main
okay.
sport. I'm a big fan of Warrington Wolves, who were in the grand final, just to mention. And then, I mean, this is going back quite a few years ago. I used to play American football.
Oh right, I'm just getting into that.
Oh, what a sport. I mean, I'm way too old to play it now, but no, for about 13, 14 years I played, including for the local team, the Shropshire Revolution.
Oh, right.
So American football was always a big part of my
I've
life.
got a few friends that are into all that. John Biggin.
I know John.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy.
Big and by name, big and by nature.
He's a strong guy.
Yeah.
I work security, not with him, but he was a colleague, I suppose by extension. But he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to face him on an American football field. He'd knock you into the stands.
He was huge. So sport's something I've always been into. I mean, I read a lot, watch a lot of films, very much into films, like music. I don't know, probably I do what every other 52-year-old does.
I mean, I like to. There's so many things I like to do in movies and comic books and things. It's just nice to wind down, isn't it? I mean, people don't understand with the podcasting scene is like there's a lot of planning that goes involved and the recording, the editing. There's lots of work that goes involved, and sometimes it's nice to just switch everything off and just do something. Even sometimes just nothing, like you said, just open a bottle of whiskey and
totally chill out. Well, one of the things that increasingly my wife and I do is we'll go away. I mean, nowhere sort of exotic, 2 or 3 days. I mean, we're going up to Northumberland in a few weeks' time, and the idea is just that thing about just switching off the phone, switching off the iPad, so that you're complete and physically you're away from the business.
Yeah.
Because if ever we've got any downtime and we're in Shrewsbury, we'll end up gravitating towards one of the cafes and doing something.
I was quite wise with the Shrewsbury Biscuit because I've pulled in people that was going to help me with the social media sort of things when I'm not able to do it, and so it's nice to be able to just switch that off because with my other show I couldn't exactly just do that because you'd be panicking like, are they slagging my show off? Like, I've written a bit here where maybe we can give your business a bit of a plug. Let's talk about those people that haven't come to Stop. Why would they want to come to Stop to drink coffee?
Okay, well, first and foremost, the quality of the product, the coffee, the cake, the savoury lunches that we provide is as good, I believe, as anywhere else in Shrewsbury, better than a lot in Shrewsbury. I think one of the things that hopefully sets us apart from other places, because there are a lot of places to eat and drink in Shrewsbury, is the friendliness of the welcome. I mean, we're very, very, very lucky to have an absolutely fantastic team.
So friendly,
3 cafes.
So friendly.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And I think there are a number of places that do really good coffee in Shrewsbury. So you've got to look to yourself and say, well, how can we set ourselves up as different from other places? I think ultimately it's the level of your service. If you've got really nice people working for you who like to smile, like to greet people and treat people with respect and properly, that goes such a long way.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I love the place because it was. I've shared some great moments, mainly in St. Julian, because like taking my son sledding for the quarry. He actually fell asleep on the sled as I was dragging him back. My arms were like pounding. I was like, oh my god! So I woke him up. I was like, we're going for coffee, and we sat there, and he was just a really nice moment. Like. So you're from Shrewsbury. You're a Salopian. What does Shrewsbury mean to you?
I think. I know that people often have a problem with this, but the original one-off idea that the Shrewsbury Bid come up with, I do think there's a lot in that. I think Shrewsbury it's unlike a lot of other places. I've travelled a lot, usually through business in my old life, throughout the UK, and I don't know, Shrewsbury does kind of feel different. Sometimes for bad reasons, but mostly for good reasons. But I guess it is. It's, as I said, it's big enough to be exciting, small enough to be safe.
Quite exclusive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you get these amazing historical buildings. I mean, I was just walking through now, and I was thinking, if you were a fan of like maybe Victorian kind of dramas and things like that, you could walk down the street and feel like you were in a Victorian town.
Oh, absolutely.
And there are a lot of people. I'm hoping a lot of people in America will be listening to this. people from all over that might be attracted to coming somewhere like that. But also, you've got a lot of futuristic, interesting looking buildings mashed in with that.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, just here where we are at the moment, I mean, I always, one of those things, because you kind of, you live or work on top of it, you don't really appreciate it. But Vaughan's Mansion, which is just over my left shoulder, so that's the white building in the courtyard, it dates from the 1200s. And it's just like, that blows you away. Go out there, sweep in the courtyard, and I look at it and I think, wow, that's quite something. And we're using it. It's being used. That's the great thing. Yeah,
it's not just locked away. I was speaking to an architect. I forget his name, which is really bad. But I was speaking to an architect who I'm probably going to get on the show. I'd love to speak to him because he is his company is responsible for restoring a lot of the buildings around here. And he showed me, he sat me down and he showed me his computer and the amount of files he's got on the buildings. He did the Market Hall.
Oh, wow. That's absolutely iconic. I mean, we go there a heck of a lot to watch cinema there, and it's, again, that's one of the jewels in Shrewsbury's crown. It really is, that place. It's fantastic.
Well, we're going to be hopefully speaking to them and linking up with the theatre as well, because they're obviously the same, one of the same. It's a process, and I'm really grateful that you've come on the show and spoke about what you do. I mean, we've done about half an hour now, which is great. But you've got a great story. You've gone from one thing to another, and even though it's a stress and it's troubling at times, you've made a success out of it, and I like that about people.
Yeah,
it's a struggle, but you've got through it.
It is. It's been a rocky road, and we're still. I'm not about to retire tomorrow or even next week. But we are. We're still. We always say to ourselves, usually when we got a quarterly VAT bill coming up, once we've paid it, we'll look at each other and say, well, that's it. We live to fight another day. But in the meantime, we're providing work for sort of 30 odd people.
Please don't stop bringing me this coffee.
No, we're providing coffee, and we're providing a much needed necessity.
Withdrawal symptoms.
So we are proud of what we do. I think the problem is and again, any small business person would say the same, is when you're so close to it, you're at the coalface sort of 7 days a week. Nobody ever really, you never take time out to think, oh, I've done a good job there. And, very rarely does anybody pat you on the back. Mostly what they do is say, you owe us money for the VAT. So sometimes it's a bit difficult for you to understand that, you are doing something well and you're doing something people appreciate.
And that's what this show is for. It's so that people that walk past your coffee shop in Colham and the students, or if you're listening to this, they get a better idea of who you are. They might be like, oh, I've heard that Mike's a great guy and he's got a great story. Let's go in there. It's a really nice coffee shop. Aleks told me. So hopefully, guys, if you're listening and you've never been to Stop.cafe, make sure you kind of swing by and try the coffee, because it really is good. I'm definitely a tribute to that. So, Mike, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Aleks.
Guys, make sure you give us a like and a share and a subscribe. Our social media, you'll be able to find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Shrewsbury Biscuit Podcast. On Twitter, we are the Shrewsbury B1, because they wouldn't let us have such a long name. I might have to look into changing that. But thank you very much, Mike. It's been really great to have you on, and thank you very much, guys.
Hey guys, how's it going? Quick promo time. Do you like beer? Specifically IPA? Well, our friends at Chez Sophie are running Christmas beer tasting, and of course that is hosted by beer genius, in my opinion, Matt Hocking. It says here on their Facebook, expect an enticing selection of varied, limited batch craft beers from some of the most progressive and talked about breweries of the year. Matt will talk you through each beer and brewery, as well as the history of this style. The event runs through Thursday the 29th and Friday the 30th of November at 7 p.m. Tickets are just £25. If you don't know where Chez Sophie is, firstly, shame on you. It's a great waffle house on Mardle in town. They sell great waffles, coffee, all kinds of food, really nice foods. They also sell some great IPAs there. I visit there quite a lot because me and Matt have a lot in common as far as beers are concerned. Make sure you check these guys out. I'll be definitely dropping a link to this event on our social media, so it'll be there for you to check out. Thank you guys, and on with the show.
guys, how's it going? I'm sat here with Aleks Vladimirov from Shrewsbury Bid. I've spoken to Aleks before, thanks for coming to chat to me. First of all, congratulations on Shrewsbury Bid for being voted back in to do what you do. What is it you guys do exactly?
We're not doing it for another 5 years as well. So we're Shrewsbury Bid, the business improvement district. We're basically voted in by our members as a business-led organization, not-for-profit, and our aim is to make Shrewsbury a better place to work, live, visit, invest in, and also study in as well now.
Okay.
So the way a business improvement district works is that it works in a certain area. For us, this is Shrewsbury Town Centre, and we are tasked for 5 years to have a clear business plan and then deliver on it, and every 5 years we have to be voted back in. So for us, we were quite, glad to receive a very strong vote of confidence with 88% of our members saying yes. Yeah, it's like 9 out of 10, so that's pretty good.
Well, you have my vote anyway. You guys have been great for the Shrewsbury Biscuit. Did you have to sell any kind of ideas to be able to win that kind of?
Yeah, and I can wave around our business plan, which it's a kind of 10-page document, but we tried to summarize it in 3 areas that we're trying to do. So we're here to promote the town, we're here to animate it and support our members, and also help them by representing them when that's needed.
Well, that's really, really good. Can you elaborate on kind of where you might be going with these
Yeah, obviously that's quite a strategic thing. So I guess in the promotion we tend to focus on seasonal campaigns, showing things through video, social media, all across through the marketing mix. And obviously we're sitting here at the moment after Light Switch On, and our key campaign for Christmas is the Get Wrapped Up in Christmas this year. So what we want to encourage people to do is get cozy in Shrewsbury, because it's got that welcoming nature.
It's got one of the best cafe cultures you'll see anywhere. So you've got some of these, like at the moment we're sat in the bird's nest in the Market Hall, and the music is getting louder and louder as we're talking. But it's a great place to come and sit and relax. It's very creative, very great to look at, and Shrewsbury is full of places like that where you can come in and get cozy.
Yeah, absolutely, and we want people to feel free to pop along, stay in the town. So that's on the promotional side, but also you'd see us do more things that would give people a reason to pop in. So looking ahead into 2019, a key thing we're organising is the Darwin and Shrewsbury Festival. So that's in February, and there will be over 40 different events, most of them for free, for people to pop along and see what's on offer, because the amount of times I hear people that just don't know what's happening, or like just haven't been on that particular street, haven't been into this particular shop, and we just want to showcase what Shrewsbury has to offer.
Yeah, and elaborating on Darwin and the festival that you bring in, which we are covering by the way. We've got kind of, I was going to say we've got like exclusivity, but we're the only Shrewsbury podcast, so we've got exclusivity anyway. Well, I've got a lot of time off on February. We've got a team of reporters, so we're going to be covering as much as we humanly can of that. What is the main cause for the Darwin Festival? Why do we do this? Why do a festival for Darwin?
It's a good question, because actually when I moved here 5 years ago, some people would have said, there isn't enough of Darwin to tell a story here to actually follow it up. And I just obviously did a lot of reading, and that's not true. I mean, Darwin spent nearly 30 years of his life in Shrewsbury. His house where he was born is here. Shrewsbury definitely has the legitimate claim to some of his fame, and the way we try to do it though is not just by celebrating his scientific achievements, but what he did for many aspects of society and culture. So we try to celebrate mainly his what he brought in, encouraging people to think independently. It's hard. At his time it was hard to say, do you know what, guys, I'm observing something here called evolution that is, some people might disagree with, but I think I'm onto something.
And also to remind people who Darwin is. I mean, we're coming like 2 days after
Stan Lee has just died. One of my biggest heroes, the creator of Marvel. And I was talking to some youngsters about Stan Lee, and they're like, "Who's Stan Lee?" And I nearly died inside. I was like, "How do you not know who Stan Lee is?"
No, it's important some of these people to celebrate.
Stan Lee left a great legacy, as did Darwin, and it's important for people to remember that. And as we live in the town where he originated, it's great that we do this. And the festival's really important to me as well, because it's going to be our first big feature for the Shrewsbury Biscuit, and I'm really excited about it.
And that's also a reason why we do the festival, to enable people like you to test new things. So that people can get a flavor of what kind of events they can be looking forward to. So there will be music systems, sound systems being plugged into fruit for kids at the Hive. We're helping host the great granddaughter of Darwin, and she will come in to do an event. She wants to talk about her work down in South America. She's an anthropologist, and then we're going to have things that are very strictly scientific, and we're also inviting scientists in pubs to deliver lectures in a more cool environment.
What was it called?
Yeah, we were in touch with someone from New Scientist that wanted to do a science stand-up as well, so it's quite a lot of interesting things.
That's got me really intrigued, the science stand-up thing. I really can't wait for that. I'm also looking forward to Mysteries as well.
Yeah.
These guys are fantastic, and we're going to be speaking to them in January. They're great guys that are going to be trying to convince school children that, what was it,
that the Wrekin is actually not a geographical feature of Shropshire. That actually it's two giants, one killed the other and buried him under the Wrekin, and they were going to try and convince people and kids that actually the scientific method has the same power as the power of storytelling, because myth stories, they're actually the world's first storytelling museum, and they're launching themselves here in Shrewsbury. So we try to basically use the Darwin Festival as a platform, a little trampoline to give a little boost to ideas like that.
Well, that's fantastic. We are going to be covering more about the Darwin Festival soon. We're going to find somewhere quiet and a bit more professional to sit down at some point, I think. What can you tell us about the renovation of Shrewsbury as a whole? We've seen all these pictures of this new town that they're going to be building. The train station's going to be different. There's going to be pathways running past the Dana. That looks amazing. What can you tell us about this, the redevelopment?
Well, to begin with, there is no new town. I mean, the key thing to remember is Shrewsbury is perfect as it is. What the focus will be is how do you then amplify this? There are development sites that are identified for building, but that's, for the town center, that's very historic. It's not the main area. So if you look at it, what's called the Big Connection is one of the top 5 priorities, and that's the area that most of us would actually agree it probably needs a bit of love, and that's where Smithfield Road backs onto the old shopping center, Riverside, and it's just such a lost opportunity to build something beautiful.
It's on the Riverside. It could attract a lot of people if it was something a bit more...
Yeah, and we don't know what it's going to be, but I think it's important to know that from a professional standpoint, when you are pitching for somebody to come in and build that, you are giving them a vision of what it could be and laying down very clear rules as to what's allowable and what's not, because clearly they need to fit in with the current built environment, but you need to let them have some input. But how we control that, if you have a look on bigtownplan.org, because that's where everything's hosted, you'd see that it talks about the Shrewsbury test, and there's a specific group now being set up that will monitor the quality of the built environment. So if you want to be a builder, you want to come in Shrewsbury and build something, it needs to hit a certain standard, otherwise we're in a position where we can say no. I mean, obviously, I'm speaking how I understand it, but I do believe that there's a clear vision of what could fit in and what wouldn't.
and it's mainly to do with these redevelopments of like infrastructure and the way the roads move and the paths move. People have got nothing to worry about with the historic buildings that are listed. Nobody's got anything to worry about that.
No. If anything, I personally think so. What I'm interested in is, the things that we're doing on the soft side. If you look at the plan, it talks about movement and improving that, and some features that need to be built. It also talks about vitality, life, and mix. It talks about creating a place for enterprise, so where would new businesses be popping up, and also it talks about nurturing natural Shrewsbury. So these are relatively intangible things, especially around the cultural side, the vitality, life, and mix, and it's just encouraging more things to happen.
Linking up the flax mill with the rest of the town is a brilliant idea. It's very innovative, so I think that's going to be great. Well, listen, guys, we're in a very busy cafe right now. You can see here it's very busy. I would like to take the opportunity to sort of thank you for everything you've done for the show and what you do for the town as well. You bring a lot of great things to the town, and I wish you all the best for the next 5 years.
Cheers! Let's see what brings us.
Hopefully, we get another chance to sit down and have a calm, quiet conversation about the Darwin Festival. So, thank you very much, and
cheers.
See you again soon. Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. That's pretty much it for episode 3. Thank you for putting up with my noisy interviews. I think they sounded all right. They sounded great. That was just Aleks from Shrewsbury Bid, and then before that, Mike from Stop. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone for your continued support with the show. It's doing really well. I'm quite proud of it, and I hope you guys join us next week. Thank you very much, and peace out, y'all.